Bettina Love pulls from her own experiences as a student, as a teacher, and as a teacher educator to put together this thought-provoking, feminist, anti-racist book, We Want to Do More Than Survive, which serves as a powerful reminder of teachers' positions as either upholders of violent systems and institutions or as agents of meaningful and long-lasting change. In her first chapter, Love calls for intersectional justice. She argues that educators need to go beyond platitudes. Educators must add substance and action to their teaching to truly be anti-racist abolitionist teacher. Teachers who fail to be actively anti-racist do not acknowledge the struggle that are caused by the structures we must dismantle. To be an abolitionist teacher, we must not rely on reform, but rather we must replace the systems that were built to uphold white supremacy. In Chapter 2, Love states that while students usually survive their education, it can be ultimately more harmful than helpful. Love explains that so many students have had their soul crushed by what she calls spirit murdering. This is when students lose their trust and sense of safety and mattering because they have had their dignity violated. Educators can be spirit murderers through their actions, words, and inactions. Students are forced to survive under extreme pain and misery without a sense of mattering. In her third and fourth chapters, Love demonstrates the importance of mattering and critiques the concepts of grit and zest. Such terms imply that students do well if they're tough enough. However, she notes that if a student does not have a safe, affirming support system, or a home place as she calls it, being tough can only go so far, and being tough simply cannot fight racism. Chapter 5 illustrates the way that people of color, particularly Black people, suffer through school in hopes of obtaining a good education under the current system. Despite this suffering, there is still Black joy. This is a joy that comes from resistance. This is a unique type of joy that comes from knowing that you are loved and that you are matter, and it helps to articulate your struggle. In her last two chapters, Love explores the need to be well. To achieve wellness for their students, educators must also be well. For white teachers, this means being willing to recognize the power of whiteness in order to dismantle it. Love cites theory combined with lived experience and reality of communities that are being harmed by the structures of whiteness as tools for abolitionist teachers. Theories work to explain how structures uphold racism, and lived experience allows us to correctly apply that theory. Today, in education, everything that was once considered conventional wisdom is now being challenged. This book challenges the idea of rags to riches American dream, and it reframes the meaning of resilience. We are a nation in pain. The only way to handle this pain is to look at the causes which are older than the nation itself, and we need to look at them head on. We must name it. 500 years of genocide started by Columbus. 400 years of racial violence and oppression initiated by the first slave ship to land in Virginia. And nearly 250 years of a government that has been based on white supremacy, gender discrimination, and where one must be wealthy to be successful. This is all to note that there are centuries of injustice to do, and no amount of reform can fix it. This is a strong book which would only be made stronger with the inclusion of more pedagogical tools to assist teachers in creating abolitionists' curriculum. In the fall of 2020, the only option a teacher has is to be an abolitionist teacher. As a teacher in the midst of a pandemic that kills people of color at a higher rate than white people, as we watch much of the West Coast burn as a result of the climate crisis, and as we watch protesters take to the streets every day and night for the last 3 months seeking justice for those murdered by the police, we cannot put our heads in the sand. This book comes at a time when students are the most able to name their struggle. With academic resources and theories making their way around Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, students are able to name their struggle better than ever before. As educators, we must help students continue to name these struggles and actively help them to fight and dismantle the source of these issues. And Love's book can be a toolkit for that process.